everybody, what's going on? Welcome back to Apex Clubhouse, episode 4. As always, I am Stacy, along with Ben and our third Apex founder, Don Mitchell. Don, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you here today to talk all things baseball, which is your background. So we're thrilled to have you. If you want to just jump right in, tell us a little bit about you. You've got an incredible pedigree in the land of baseball.
Yeah, I have a checkered past, is what I like to say. So, played college baseball at UT Martin, first at Paducah Community College, and transferred to UT Martin, and then signed out of a tryout camp with the Cincinnati Reds, and then played a few years in the minor leagues, started scouting full-time at age 26. Ended up being a national supervisor with the Indians, Pirates, Braves, and the front office with the Braves in the mid-'90s. Those were fun times. And then the Diamondbacks, when they started their franchise, hired me as the director of scouting and built the scouting departments in the late 90s. And then after 4 years with the D-backs, had a little burnout, a lot of travel. So I decided to start my own agency as a certified Major League Baseball agent and represented about 30 some guys that were top 3-round picks during that 9 years that we had the agency. And it was during that time that realized that even those high-profile players and families needed a lot of college recruiting advice as the college recruiting process became more and more confusing and more challenging. And so I started College Baseball Advisors. I've had that for 16, 17 years. And it's really, we select the players that we want to work with based on their ability, their academics, their attitude, their goals, objectives. And it's been awesome. We've mentored over 900 players in those 17 years. Over 90% of them have gone on to play college baseball with funding. And it's been very rewarding knowing that from our past experience as players, scouts, agents, that we can assist families, because every player deserves every opportunity that could come their way. Extremely excited about Apex and its launching and the platform, because as we'll talk about, I'm sure, the majority of NIL money and sponsorships and scholarships are going to the top 1% of the players, usually in basketball and football, the revenue generating sports. So the other 98% of the players that we've, like I was and Ben, you were, we need some assistance. We need a platform like Apex to get us opportunities out there in the college athletic world. So thanks for having me.
Well, that's a great intro. And so now you're speaking with all these families and all these players around the country. What are some of the biggest concerns you've gotten from the parents as far as getting their kid recruited, getting them some, eyeballs on them and getting them an opportunity? What are their biggest concerns from the parent standpoint?
Well, great question. Timing on that question, because the last 4 or 5 days I've been at several Arizona high school state championship games, playoff games. And I've had a lot of conversations with parents. And not only do they have the normal, how do we present ourselves to college coaches, but now that they've heard so much and read so much, players, families, about NIL and transfer portal and all of that maze, they're totally confused. They don't know where to go. They don't, even the basic, they get a lot of different advice. There's a lot of people that are trying to help them. Maybe a college coach or a club coach might say, we'll put some stuff on Twitter. Well, college coaches in any sport do not just sit down and start, going through their Twitter feed trying to find players. That's not how it works. I was a college AD for 3 years also. So it's they're just confused, and like I said, like anything else, there's a lot of different opinions. We know what they say about opinions, right? And everybody has one, but really you need to have a strategy, and they're just frustrated because they don't even know where to start with a strategy for college recruiting. Now, I had a mother from a player in Benson, Arizona, tell me the other day that her son was being recruited both in baseball and football, and the football coach at the college, they were visiting, started talking about all the NIL money that they can get their son, and they're using that as a recruiting pitch, and families are just really confused by all of that.
It's also they're also just like empty promises, right? Like it feels just like such a bait and switch because it's luring you in under the guise of I'm going to get you all of this money, I'm going to do all these things for you, and then it's going to be like sit your ass on the bench. It's not going to happen. So it's just a bummer to see what's happening, especially in what we were reading yesterday. What Ben was learning yesterday is how many programs are being cut, and we're not just baseball. I'm talking like all programs are being cut nationally right now, and it's just like because the schools are in debt. That's a different topic for a different day, maybe. But
yeah, right.
The other thing that seems to be happening in the land of baseball with college is that the MLB is relying more and more on the college teams to develop the players. So I want to get your insight, both being baseball players, what you guys think about that. Would you like to have stayed in college more? Do you feel like you're missing something on the minors? Do you feel like you have an opportunity to make more money in college? What are our thoughts? Ben, let me start with you.
Well, Don and I talked about the transition and the decision to transition a lot of the player development to the college aspects of it. So there's the funding of it, which the cost does not want to be bared by the MLB. And so now the colleges are going to be put to task on funding the programs for the baseball teams, and they're not making money. So there's going to have to be some other source of revenue to fund the teams. There's a lot of cutbacks, like you said, in a lot of the different programs around the country. So NIL is basically funded by companies or donors. So companies or like boosters that are going to fund the program. So Don, I mean, when you stay in college and you want the MLB wants colleges to player develop more, who's going to fund that, and how does that look like as far as what does that look like as far as getting drafted? Because if you play in the minors, you're not making a whole lot of money, but if you stay in college the extra year or two, you might get more reps, another year of on the team and playing, and so you're getting more reps.
Yeah, I'll try to summarize or do this because I could spend probably 2 hours, in a deposition arguing both sides of this, being a former scouting director and being a former player agent. 4 years in Major League, for decades in Major League Baseball, even back to the 80s and 90s, Bud Selig has tried to get all 30 Major League teams to reduce their costs on scouting and player development. Now, in my opinion, he treated it like it was 30 McDonald's, okay, that are not really competing with each other. But that's not the case, Bud, okay? We have competing organizations. It's McDonald's versus, Wendy's versus Burger King. And so, for total equality and total parity, it's just not going to work. But he wanted to try to reduce the amount of phone calls that he would get from Major League owners complaining that somebody else had an unfair advantage. Okay, so I'll get off my Bud Selig rant, but Rob Manfred, the current Major League commissioner, it was a protege of his and learned under him, and so history repeats itself. COVID came around, and it was a perfect storm for Major League Baseball to reduce the number of Major League teams, reduce scouts, and try to point towards college baseball developing players. Sure, a lot of college programs develop players, but they're also there to win. Even in now Division II, NAI, Division III, junior college level, there's pressure to win. And so they may not have time to wait on a player to develop a changeup. I mean, with the Diamondbacks, I drafted a player named Brian Sager out of the Northeast, offered him $1.1 million in 1998 or 99. He turned that down. He went to Stanford. Awesome, baseball school. Great. Went there. He only threw 11 innings as a freshman. He didn't really develop his changeup. After 2 years, he transferred to Georgia Tech. Then he was drafted in the 8th round and signed for $30,000. Well, we don't read about those stories, but that continues today. And with NIL money, you're right. NIL money, if a player can go to even a mid-level Division I school and get $100,000 NIL money, why is he going to end scholarship money and develop? Then why is he going to sign for $25,000 in the 15th round of the draft? So this is a big challenge. It's changing every 6 months, every year, and it's just really hard for people to keep up with.
In that vein, one of the things that you do after you've had this extensive checkered past, as you say, is you are now a prolific speaker. You go around and you talk to teams and parents, you talk to players. This is what you do, right? And in that, one of the things you talk about is the name game. And you talk about, it doesn't matter if you're going to a D1 school. What matters is that you're going and you're playing. That's what matters. The MLB pulls from D2, D3, JUCO all the time. And so in this place where the MLB is now relying on colleges to develop athletes, do you feel like that makes the name game even more important, that people don't get hung up on those big marquee names instead of actually going to a school where you can get play time?
Okay, you're really trying to raise my blood pressure now, aren't you, Stacey? Because this is a topic of mine.
I know.
And I call it the biggest dream crusher in this whole deal, particularly in baseball, but it's other sports too, okay? And yes, yeah, and I have given this presentation around the country to high school programs and parents at big events and around the country. And, it hits a nerve because there's a little bit of ego involved, but I use baseball primarily as an example, and I'll list the name of colleges. Let's just go right to the top right now. The Los Angeles Dodgers, World Series champions, on their 40-man Major League roster. I mean, I can name you some of the colleges that players signed out of: San Jac Community College in Texas, University of Connecticut, University of Iowa, Eastern Illinois, East Tennessee State, UNC Pembroke. Yeah, I'm reading from the list because it's so long. Central Arkansas, South Dakota State was Blake Trinan, Alex Vasia's Cal State East Bay, Bryant University in Rhode Island, on and on and on. Yeah. But a player will hear the names of those colleges and go, I don't want to go there. I've never heard of it. A father doesn't want his kid to go there because he doesn't want to go to work tomorrow bragging to his buddies at work. Yep, South Dakota State is after my boy. But yet Blake Trinan signed out of there. And so even last year's draft, you got me going. Okay, so you asked the question. Last year's draft, you have players drafted in the top 10 rounds from Taylor University in Indiana, Western Kentucky, Abilene Christian in Texas, Shippensburg in Pennsylvania, Midland College in Texas. I can go on and on. The list is so long. My new favorite one is my home state of Kentucky, Transylvania University in Lexington. Like what did they graduate? Vampires? I don't know. But they had a 9th round draft, but nobody wants to go there unless they live right in that town. So this is the name game, and it crushes more dreams, even in other sports, because, an ego and bragging. Athletes, they need to understand, and usually the athlete gets it. They want to go get their degree. It should be your objective. I love the trades, but go get your degree, play the sport you love, and get funding. There's so much funding out there available, not just in scholarships, but through opportunities now with NIL, discounts, scholarship opportunities, being able to do endorsements and sponsorships. The transfer portal allows you now to transfer almost rules free. So the recent developments in the last year or two in this whole maze has actually, I think, added to the message I've been giving about don't play the name game. Go somewhere where you're going to play and develop. What's the key phrase there, Ben? Play and develop. Yep. And get better. And if it happens where you get to transfer, awesome. You might want to stay there and get your degree and get to play the sport you love. So there you go. I'll take a breath.
No, it's really good insight. And the funding, I think football has done a disservice to the perception of how to be successful to go pro, because so many guys do get drafted from LSU, Ohio State, Michigan, the big schools in the country, and that's a misnomer.
Don't forget Alabama, because we'll be in trouble if you don't say Alabama.
And that's the perception, just because it happens to be that way in football, but it's absolutely not the way in baseball. And it's going to be even more so going forward, because they've also, maybe you could talk to this, they capped the teams from, they used to be able to carry 40 players on Division I, and now they're going to be capped at 34. Is that right?
It's true, 34 in baseball. And I don't want to constantly talk about baseball because this applies to every sport, but they've capped it at 34 in baseball. And but that doesn't mean that all Division I colleges are going to be able. They won't. They're not. They don't. They don't have 34 full rides. That's what a lot of families now think because they read on social media. Oh, this is great. They can have 34 scholarships. That doesn't mean a school is going to sponsor it. USC is not at my understanding, unless they've changed it this year. Even USC is not at 34 full rides. They're still around 20. Is my understanding. So you might want to fact check me on that. But there are a lot of division schools around the country that just because they changed those rules, but they did reduce, you're right. So they can't, not only are they a lot of the Power 5 schools not up to 34 full rides, but now they've reduced their roster from 42 down to 34, which makes it, again, even more important to consider other options. This is about getting the right fit academically and athletically, not just going to some name game school that people heard of.
Well, and one other thing I want to point out too is the grades for you had mentioned in several of your speeches around the country is that for every 0.1 of a grade point average, you open yourself up to 125 more new schools. So if you have a 3.4 and then you increase to a 3.5 GPA, you now have another 125 schools that can recruit you because of your grades. So grades is really important for a baseball player.
Absolutely. For any athlete, grades, academics is where it's at. That's what I've opened up my presentations with every time. Academics is where it's at. And I tell these athletes, hey, I know you have to spend, 5-6 hours a day on your communication and entertainment device. Okay. But you better spend some time budgeting some time for your academics and just study interrupted because correct. In baseball, it's about 125 schools. Softball, it's even more than that. There are 1,582 college softball programs, and so academically in a lot of those schools, in baseball and softball, if you have below a 3.0 GPA, you just eliminated about 55% of the colleges around the country that can recruit you. They might think you're the best softball or baseball player in the country or in your region, but they can't get you into school. And the days of a coach being able to slide you into the program, even though your grades are not good, those days are over. You know that, Stacy, from being at a major college, yourself, and Ben, you as well. Those days are over. College coaches have what's called an APR, academic progress rank. Oftentimes their salary as a coach is dependent on how good their team is in the classroom. So they're looking for players not only with good ability, but strong academics. That's the first thing that most college coaches ask a player. What's your GPA?
Well, and it's the minimum threshold for our members as well, right? So because we're not coaches, we're not recruiters, we don't have quite as stringent an expectation being a 3.5 or higher, but our minimum requirement for one of our members to join is a 2.8. And if you imagine that a 3.0 is B average, we're saying you need to be a B average student and maybe you have a C in your math class, right? Like it's reasonable, but it is important even to us because how Apex is functioning is from our vendor marketplace who gets to post gigs for our members to participate in. It's so wonderful for those vendors to know that the caliber of the people that they're working with care, pay attention, have attention to their detail orientation. All those things are super important.
Absolutely. I mean, it's an indication at some point of the level. Sorry if you were going to speak, Ben, but college coaches, I've been an AD. I mean, you guys know this. Athletes need to know that it's not just the grade itself, the GPA itself, the ACT, SAT, but to the coach of whatever sport, it's an indication of your commitment, your discipline, your dedication to anything, and if you're not dedicated in the classroom, then they're concerned about how dedicated you're going to be on the practice field when things are tough and you're trying to develop and it's hard. So it's not just the grade GPA, but what's behind it. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's just talk a little bit about other ways that people are trying to get recognized, right? So you've got we've got the name game. People want to play in these high marquee these schools because they feel sort of ego and they want that advantage. We know how important the GPA is. The other way a lot of these players are trying to get seen and to make a name for themselves, they're going to different camps and different recruiting methods. So how important is it to go to camps, and how important is it to participate if you live in Texas to drive to California or fly to California and go to a camp out there? I mean, how critical is it? Ben, did you do a lot of that when you were a player? Like, where does this stand for you guys in terms of importance?
Well, summer baseball was always important for me, but this is 30 years ago. Times have changed, and I just know that there's kids spending a ton of time traveling, a ton of time or money in paying for camps that are unnecessary to get seen by a coach who doesn't know them. And Don, talk to that. I mean, a lot of the awareness that they're buying, they're not getting. They think that they're getting an attention of a coach, but the coach doesn't care. The coach already has his list. He's just running a camp. The camp is making money for a school. Maybe talk to how important that is, Don.
Okay, you guys, now you've hit my second hot button. Okay. So, yes, it's fun, it's good, etc. to go to certain, what I call third party, not a college camp. That's a whole nother topic, going to college camps. Those are revenue generators for the school. Yes, maybe out of 100 players at a college camp, Stanford's going to know something about you and learn more about you. But those are primarily, if the college coach doesn't already know about you, then you need to have some dialogue before you go to that college camp. Now, third party showcases, camps, there's all the way, I chuckle, we chuckle in this industry, in this lane of advisors and agents and so forth, because how many different names can you come up with? It's the ID Select All-Star Elite. It's like they get out what's that called? The thesaurus? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, did I pronounce that right? They get that out to try to find a new name for these events. And, I'm here in Arizona. And so this is the land of showcases every weekend, all year long. And I tell folks from the Northwest and Midwest, we love your tourism dollars here in Arizona, but your club coach tells you we're going to go play in this tournament in November, December, January in Arizona. There's going to be college coaches there. They come in here. There's 125 teams at a big, Padres and Mariners complex, which is fine. But they're told, hey, you can get some exposure. You can get some college exposure. That's a quiet period. College coaches can't even be there for the most part, maybe some junior college coaches. But the club coach is not going to tell his families that up in Oregon or Washington, hey, we're going to go play in a tournament, but there's not going to be any college coaches around. They're not going to tell them that, are they? Because then they won't come. So come for the experience, come for the development, come for the other competition, come for a little vacation, the better weather, whatever. But if you're coming thinking to a third party big tournament showcase that you're going to get recruited, and I'm not a showcase tournament basher. I'm really not. And there are a handful of them around the country that are very valuable to go to if you can. Of course, everybody's going to want to know what are those, but do some research. Find out who's behind it, who's running those, what's the history. See some photos, some videos of college coaches actually on site at their events, and really find out, is it a valuable thing to go to? And again, I hear it all the time. Don, you don't understand. He got invited. He got invited to come to this ID showcase in Houston in December. I go, yeah, I understand. You got invited to spend another $1,500 for entry fee and expenses for another T-shirt. And to watch your son run the 60-yard dash again, take 12 swings, take some ground balls. Thank you for coming. And then you're going to get invited to the next elite event with that group. It's a crazy little game, and not little game. It's a crazy business out there now. And you're right. Years ago, it wasn't taking place. But now, one more thing. Again, I told you this is a hot button. Okay. So when all these teams come to Arizona and they play in these events, which is, hey, awesome. I get to go out there and watch a lot of players. But The umpires get paid, the concession people get paid, the hotels and restaurants in the area get paid, the people running the event get paid, the people that own the complex get paid, and the club coach gets paid, and guess where every dime comes from? The parents.
Parents. Yeah.
All right. You know, the average family, research shows, will spend about $8,000 to $10,000 per year, starting in about 7th grade, for all these camps and showcases and exposure. You got to really have a strategy and really have a plan. And it's about reaching, and this is another topic if you want to segue, but it's about being proactive and you going to them. And I get the look from people all the time. What? No, we've heard that if you're good enough, they'll find you.
Yeah.
This is like American Idol, The Voice, America's Got Talent. You need to go to them and let them know who you are.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit back and wait, I can make you one guarantee. The only guarantee I will make in this whole mess is if you sit back and wait, you're going to keep waiting.
Fair enough. Well, we'll talk about strategy in just 90 seconds.
Does your son dream of playing college baseball? College Baseball Advisors gives high school and junior college players the personal tools, coaching, and strategy to get recruited, get playing time, and get funded. With over 75 years of combined experience and more than $2 million secured for athletes, they know how to get results. Visit collegebaseballadvisors.com to see if you qualify. If you're still doing manually what AI could handle automatically, it's time to meet WebMax Labs. They're a Scottsdale-based AI automation company that builds custom AI agents, chatbots, and smart workflows that saves businesses an average of 12 hours a week. From process optimization to data intelligence, WebMax Labs transforms how you work. Start with their AI assessment at webmaxlabs.com. You've put in the work on the field, but are you building the brand off it? Ice9 Consulting helps student athletes develop their personal brand, grow their social media presence, and position themselves for NIL deals and beyond. Your name, your image, your story, they're your greatest asset. Let Ice9 Consulting help you own it. Visit ice9consulting.com. Tired of putting up and taking down holiday lights every year? Aurora Home Lights installs permanent LED lighting on your Arizona home. App-controlled, every color imaginable, and built to handle our desert heat. One install, endless looks year-round. Right now, they're offering 30% off, so don't wait. Call or visit aurorahomelights.com to get your free quote today.
Strategy is everything when it comes to being seen, when it comes to outreach, when it comes to just not kicking back and letting somebody come to you. That's important. That's important in any aspect of your life. It's important if you're dating, right? Like, you can't just wait for someone to show up. Like, you have to be involved in the process. So let's take a second to talk about getting noticed. What video strategy, what kind of outreach? Ben, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Dawn, there's so many parents that they want to help. They don't know exactly how to do it. They want to reach out to the coaches. They don't know what to say, but they want to provide that exposure to a coach. What kind of, because the budgets are so constrained by D2, NIAI, and JUCO schools, what video strategy is there, and what company do you recommend that they use for video to get that, to capture, the essence of their child and get that to the coach or recruiter?
Well, you hit right there, Ben, on the biggest disconnect in this whole process in any sport in college is the lack of recruiting budgets. Only, for instance, in baseball, only your top 50 D1 schools out of 300 D1s, only about your top 50 have the type of recruiting budget that they can just jump on a plane and go see players. So even your lower Division I, certainly Division II, Division III, NAI, have very limited budgets. They're some of the best NAI programs in the country that have players drafted in the Major League Draft every year have less than $3,000 to recruit with the whole year. And so people don't realize that. And so when you consider that and really think about it, it puts several exclamation points on that you have to have a strategy and be proactive yourself to let them know who you are. Again, this is probably the second next to name game of the biggest mistakes that families make. You have to be proactive. You cannot be afraid of the word no. If a college coach maybe likes you but doesn't have interest in you or a need in you as a player, no matter what sport. So having a strategy, my advice to parents and players and families is consider this your profile, because everybody has a profile now, some little free profile out there, and they think that coaches are just going to find it. And so consider the profile to be your resume for a job. Your athlete, if parents are listening, your athlete has been working hard to have the best academic and athletic resume they can. You as parents are spending between $8 and $10 grand a year to help them develop that resume, athletic and academic resume. And the people around the country think, now I'm just going to sit back and wait for somebody to come and ask me for my resume. That's not how it works in the real world. And so having the right resume that defines every item on that resume, it needs to be concise, just like going for a job. And it needs to paint the picture of who the player is on and off the field. When that profile is completed, then yes, video is a big part of this, and skills video. So video is another place where parents and families trip up, okay? They'll send, because we're parents, we're proud of our kid. And, I saw a video the other day. It was 54 seconds into the video before the baseball player, did anything with a baseball. All the bells and whistles and the slow motion and the lights and all that doesn't impress a college baseball or softball coach or any other coach. So skills video should be, and they can go online or they can utilize some resources out there. It's what we do with college baseball advisors. We specifically assist families on how to cut all that down to where it's 1.5 to 2 minutes on the offensive side, 1.5 to 2 minutes on the defensive side, maybe a couple of minutes on the pitching side. And then you need to know the angles, the right distance. Then you splice all that together, and that's part of your resume that you send to college coaches. This is not about, going to some big showcase where you pay somebody a bunch of money to get a video and there's 12 swings and it's from a GoPro and they don't edit out the swings that were either popped up or hitting the ground. And then people send that out to college coaches and then wonder why they don't get any feedback. If you're going after, if you're going to Grand Canyon University for a voice scholarship, are you going to send them a videotape of your voice cracking, or are you missing some of the words in a song? Don't think so, but people will send that out in sports, So I don't mean to sound so cynical, but you just know I'm passionate about this, and people keep making the same mistakes, and consider it a job that you're going after and a resume, and that usually helps folks put together the right right document and the piece of information.
Yeah, and thinking about it by way of being a resume, you only ever want to display the best part of you. I'm not going to tell people that. Sometimes I wake up late. Like, why would I do that?
Yeah. And you're right, Stacey. And college coaches know that, players strike out sometimes, or players, miss a shot in basketball or drop a pass in football. They know that, but you're right. Don't put that. Don't put the highlight game footage of him winning the game or her winning the game, because even though everybody's excited, that doesn't impress the coach just because she made the shot, she got the hit. Maybe she was out front on her swing a little bit.
Right.
They're painting the picture, the best picture you can for the college coach. And skills video is very important in that. It's okay to have some game footage, some highlight footage, but cut it down,
Right.
And no music, no Top Gun Maverick music on your skills video. If the coach wants to listen to music, he'll put in his earbuds or whatever. That's not going to impress anybody. But to still see that going on today.
Yeah.
I like that advice. Parents that want to help their kids so they could do the video. One of the other things that really resonated with me that you talked about was parents' social media. So they're promoting their kid. They're wanting to clean up the kids' social media, which is absolutely epically important. But you had mentioned the parents' reaction when you ask for their social media. they're kind of, their jaw drops like, well, why would you want my social media? It's because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And if the parent has been on social media handling, their opinions of the athletic director or the program, or, bad talking anybody, you want to know that as a recruiter, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's one reason I like the Ice9 consulting platform that gives families assistance in how to put together, how to have the right branding, the right marketing, right branding, if you will, on your social media. Because that's one of the first places these days that a college coach is going to go to, or many of our Division I schools now have somebody in their front office, their athletic department, that it's their job, that all the coaches will bring that person the social media of their possible recruits, and it's their job to look up and see what athlete is posting. And it's not just the negative party stuff, it's critical statements, divisive statements, bragging, on too much bragging. And as you just mentioned, Ben, college coaches, they want the parents' social media handles these days. Almost all college questionnaires for athletes now ask for the parents' social media handles. So I talk about this a lot. Parents got to be, as you said, parents need to be careful what they post. If they criticize a style of play with a club coach, a tournament, etc., where my sons, and by the way, parents, you probably don't want to show up on a video where you got in a fight with an umpire in the parking lot. That's probably not going to help your child's opportunity. We are seeing that in 12-year-old games. Give me a break, okay? When it's probably not going to help your son, daughter's athletic future in college, okay? So
kind of virality.
It's crazy. So it might not be just the parents' social media. They got to be careful because coaches are going to look at that. As a former college coach, I see negative stuff on a parent's social media. I'm out. Next house. I got options. I got other players I can recruit. If that parent's putting that out there for everybody to see, it scares me. It makes me wonder what else is behind the surface. What's going on at home? How's this kid going to be in practice every day, or in the dorm, or when we're on the road? So,
well, and they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So
we have heard that. I think our grandparents said that. Yeah.
I say that I'm so much like my mother that whenever I do something or we're together, I say like, you are the tree from which my apple falls. Like we are similar people. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah. This is what I call a volatile cocktail that we're talking about with college sports, recruiting. You're talking about potential large sums of money, opportunity, by parents living vicariously through their kids.
Yes.
You put all that together. Yes, we all understand. We've been there. It can be very emotional. One of my daughters, when she's 9 years old, at a piano recital, I thought she was the best. She played Row, Row, Row Your Boat, and I thought she was perfect, and the best. She was the best there. Some 11-year-old boy played Beethoven, and I thought he missed a note or two, and I don't know if C from a G, So it's hard. It's hard. I know Major League Scouts, their sons were prospects, and they couldn't write a report. So I don't know. Parents, there's all kinds of postings now. Major League players and professionals and psychologists that are trying to give information to try to calm the parent behavior down a little bit. I don't know that I don't think it's any better than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, parents. I'm just trying, I talk about a fence face at a baseball or softball game where the parent gets up on the backstops and just screams at their kid. And then they wonder when they're 13 years old why they don't want to play the sport anymore.
Well, in the land of helping your child continue on and progress and give them opportunities, I mean, helping them be proactive, there's all kinds of tools now. You got social media to post stuff. It gets out to 4,000 or 5,000 people in a weekend. You have AI, and we have an AI platform at Apex that allows people to craft the perfect kind of message for your athlete to, depending on who you're talking to, with a brand or an NIL opportunity or a coach and recruiter. If you just want to come off as very professional, there's tools, all kinds of AI tools. I mean, we have several ways to do that. But when it comes down to actually making a connection with a coach. It's a lot of just who you know. So you want to be personable. There's all these AI opportunities or tools or whatever out there, but when it comes down to it, it's the personal touch, it's the feeling, it's the vibe that somebody gives off, and it's the communication that AI can't necessarily do for you. So returning phone calls and being a human and being respectful, on the phone and of people's time and that sort of thing, that goes a really, a long way in the world of AI and tech right now, right?
You just hit another button there. I just thought, I think we're still a couple of years away from an Elon Musk robot out on the field playing the sport in college.
Yeah.
I think we might be a couple of years away from that. So yes, the coach wants to get to know the player. I don't care if you're playing badminton, tennis, ping pong, cheer, dance, whatever, golf, whatever in college, the coach wants to know the player. They're bringing them into their family, and they want to know that they have the discipline and the communication skills and the desire, everything you just talked about, Ben. And so the coach has a really tough job to try to determine, that area, the makeup, if you will, is what we always called it in baseball scouting. The sixth tool, I always tell baseball players, look, it's not going to take an evaluator very long to evaluate your baseball skills. When you hit a ball, run the bases, throw a ball, field it, they're going to spend the next 2 hours of the game evaluating your heart and your mind for your sport, any sport. And so that's a great point that you make, Ben, on the it's challenging, and the coach is going to look for as many different avenues as possible to evaluate that athlete and their makeup and their off the field. So extremely important. And again, an athlete in the family needs to be proactive. You need to utilize social media to promote yourself and your branding and your marketing that you talk about.
Well, and the thing that all that ties into is able to work in the future with brands, companies, sponsors, boosters, people that want to help support you along the way. Because if you're not likable, then who's going to want to work with you? And so being able to have that social media, to have that personal branding, to have that strategy, to be able to connect with those coaches, all of that is going to lead along the way for helping baseball players get those brand deals and have those relationships and be able to put some money in the bank from whatever stage forward. And if people don't like you, they're not going to work with you. Ben and I were in Japan recently, and Shohei Ohtani is on everything. He is on everything. That man, if there is a product that he could promote, he's doing it. He could have promoted a score ball. I mean, he just was everywhere, but he's such a likable dude. So let's get into talking about brand deals for baseball players. Ben, I want to kick this one off with you.
Well, yeah, Shohei has really embraced, your name and image and connecting it with brands, and he's profiting from it. But the companies get exposure to a whole group of customers that they wouldn't normally get to, experience. So you can put that ad revenue towards TV, social media, radio, whatever advertising medium has worked in the past for you. A lot of brands are choosing to connect with athletes because they get a younger demographic around the kids' age. And then you also have just athletic sporting events where people are susceptible to advertising. So you're sitting there, you're watching a sport because it is entertainment. And so the ads come on and they're associated with the athlete that you like. By default, if you like the athlete, you like the brand. It's just how the mind works. And it's a genius strategy that has been, curated over years and years. This is not new, but I think when a company does really well in matching their brand with a athlete, it can really get a lot of traction. Don, have you seen any players that really have that charisma to promote a brand and any kind of partnership that's really worked out well that you've seen?
Absolutely. And this has been an ongoing challenge. And it's one of the reasons why I think Apex is just going to be so good for a lot of athletes and companies that want to sponsor athletes, give discounts, give gear. it helps that Ohtani, throws 98 miles an hour and hits home runs and steals bases. Okay. But we're talking about that elite. But there's so many athletes, as you mentioned, Stacy, that companies want to connect to, and it's a personality, it's a style in any sport. The days of I remember in the 60s and 70s where Beech Nut Tobacco puts a billboard on a minor league stadium outfield wall hoping to generate some business. Obviously, we're not in those days anymore, but companies still want to be associated with athletes that are not only popular, not only good players, not only good players, but popular in their sport for good reasons. But there's always been a struggle for that connection. Like when I was an agent, this was in the early 2000s, 20 years ago. Just a quick example, we represented a player named Joel Zumaya who threw 102 miles an hour. And at that time, he had a little tattoo on his forearm. Well, Major League Baseball at that time didn't allow it. Okay. Well, we were able to go out with a sleeve company that produces sleeves for the arms that are popular, and did a sleeve deal for 20, 30 grand. And this was 20 years ago. And they jumped at the opportunity because it was kind of cool. It provided an opportunity for that company to market their brand, and their sales, skyrocketed. So I'm really excited for athletes, the other 98%, because we mentioned earlier, almost 99% of the, and Ben, you can speak to this, and Stacy more than me, but the numbers, but 99% of the NIL money that everybody's reading about is going to 1% of the athletes. Oh, yeah. So, and then we have two parties. We have not only nationwide companies, but large regional companies, vendors in certain cities or even smaller towns or cities in college towns that want to be affiliated and spend money to be in a college program or billboard or sponsorship or radio announcement. But they want a little connection with the player these days. They want to be associated. And the player wants an opportunity with NIL to, if it's in the hundreds or thousands of dollars of sponsorships or endorsements or appearances or discounts with those companies, and how do they come together? And that's what you mentioned at the beginning, Stacey, about Apex, and that's why I'm so excited about opportunities there for everybody, because it's a little bit of not the underdog, but it's the 98% of us. It's why I started College Baseball Advisors. It wasn't for the primo blue chip prospect. It was for the rest of the 98% of us. So there is a need there that hasn't been met, especially now with NIL rules and transfer rules. And I think so many thousands of college athletes are really going to like the opportunity that they can now connect with local companies.
Well, and as
when it comes down to also being proactive, sorry, Stacey, it comes back to being proactive. You got to reach out to those brands and the car dealerships and the restaurants and the bars locally, because those restaurants and bars want those fans to go to the restaurant and bar after the game. So if you can connect with local businesses, whether it's a car dealership or whatever, it just comes down to being proactive as an athlete, though, right?
That college athlete might want to be 21 years old if they're doing something with a bar.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just clarify that, okay?
Absolutely. And for our vendors that are interested in joining the marketplace and want to get involved, you can always reach out to Ben, and he can give you the information for that. It's $600 a year. $600 a year. It's $50 a month to be a vendor for the Apex marketplace and have direct access to those vetted, certified Apex athletes. This is a rounding error on your marketing budget on a basis.
They're paying $1,000, $2,000 just to have a sign out on the outfield fence at a field.
And the cool thing I think, and Ben and I were just in downtown Tempe, and we were talking to a former volleyball player named Bailey, and she played professionally, and she kept telling us how she had to cover all of her travel, all of her expenses. She had to essentially pay herself to play the game that she loved and was playing professionally. And so if you can make an extra $300, $600, $1,500 here and there, those things add up. And Apex doesn't take a penny of that. We're not an agent. We're not a manager. We don't take 10%. That is a direct relationship between the brand and the athlete, and it's 100% to the athlete.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're really passionate about helping athletes at any level, whether it's college or pro. And reach out to us. We'd love to team with you and help you out. And that's what some of the benefits that you get as being a member. And it's $30 to join. It's $10 a month. We think it's the best value out there for any athlete that wants to do a brand deal. We offer tons of discounts with all kinds of different companies. And if you're a company, you get access to all of our athletes to work with them and promote your product, and they would love to do it. So,
well, Don, thank you for being with us. I know that your website is collegebaseballadvisors.com. I know that you are selective about the players that you work with. You choose just a couple players annually to take under your wing, and those are some lucky players. So do you have any final thoughts, anything that you want to leave us with before we end this episode today?
No, this has been awesome. Thanks for listening to me. I know I can get a little bit wordy just because I'm passionate. I normally don't like to talk this much. I'm an introvert, but this just, we had our turns, right? We had our turns as athletes, and every player deserves, in any sport, deserves every opportunity that could come their way, whether it be the opportunity to go play at your college sport, or these opportunities through Apex and endorsement, NIL sponsorships and discounts, etc. So it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon again.
All right, you guys, thank you for joining us on this episode of Apex Clubhouse. We will see you soon.
All right, bye.